Okay. All right. Well, everyone has done such a great job of being considered on the time. I'm going to try and do the same. I've asked Chris to give me a heads up when I'm getting close to my time limit. I'm doing something a little different here. I'm a big fan of cultural anthropology, and I have a lot of slides, but we're going to go through them pretty quickly. They have a lot of photos and images on them. So if someone's really interested in the topic, they can go back and look at the slides. So this is about secret societies and fraternal orders and how they've affected modern American society and how they have developed over the course of history. So looking at how these organizations have been important in society and what role might they have in the future, and some of the controversies surrounding them. Here's the Mystic Order of Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm. Probably never heard of that one. Fraternal orders in America came very early. Freemasonry came over with the original settlers from England, and many of our colonial leaders, including George Washington, were Masons. They used ritual, regalia, and secrecy to improve the morals of their members, but good fellowship and strong spirits often accompanied their philosophical discussions along the way. Here's Washington as a master Mason. They popularized ideas like the equality of man, the power of reason, and the existence of natural laws. All of those concepts played an important role in the founding of the United States. And also the lodges in the colonies helped unify the colonies during the Revolution. A lot of fraternal organizations based on the Masons took root in this country. Black men were not welcomed in those early groups, and they started their own lodges. By 1819, we had the Odd Fellows, which was another English group and had established a lodge. They brought the more practical concept of offering benefits, insurance, and help for widows and orphans, which became a more popular model for a lot of the fraternal groups, because there weren't government programs to help families. Peter Ogden was a Black American sailor who started a lodge for Black men in 1843. By the 1840s, we had a lot of newcomers, a lot of immigrants coming into this country, and a lot of them formed fraternal orders. There was also groups that were protesting the immigrants, kind of history repeating itself today, I suppose. In the 1850s, we got women involved in fraternal groups as auxiliary groups, the Eastern Star and the Daughters of Rebecca. And the first independent women's fraternal group was formed in 1846 by Jewish women. It was called the United Order of True Sisters. The golden age for fraternal groups in this country was really from the 1870s until the Great Depression of the 1930s. I think it's pretty amazing that by the early 1900s, at least 1/3 of American men belonged to a fraternal order. Membership had business advantages, and they also supported charitable and community projects. During the Depression, a lot of the groups died out. They weren't able to survive that. They didn't have enough members. And some of them survived, but they had to deal with changes in society that made membership less desirable. Some of them were able to adapt, and some of them did not. One sort of interesting group, and one of the oldest fraternal groups in the not just in this country, but in the world, is the one you've probably never heard of, the Concaded Order of the Hoo-Hoos, founded in 1892. And here they are in their hoo-hoo regalia. They had a black cat as their symbol, and they were pretty unconventional. They were, some people said they were kind of silly. They took their officers' titles from Lewis Carroll. I see Lewis is misspelled there. Hunting of the Snark, and they called their leader the Snark of the Universe. Like many other groups, they added practical benefits to help people find employment. They were primarily involved with the timber industry, but they also helped with disaster funds and death benefits for widows. World War I brought difficulties for all the fraternal groups, and particularly in the timber industry, and memberships were dropping. So Hoo-Hoos, like others, looked for ways to get new recruits. They encouraged local clubs and had local kinds of benefits. This is my hometown, Lufkin, Texas, where there was a band, a Hoo-Hoo band. They also went to more educational kinds of focus in the 1920s and the 1930s, became a promoter of Arbor Day, changed course again in the mid-20s, became an official spokesman, more of a trade group, and that brought their membership up. Then we had the Depression and the stock market crash, and a lot of the groups never made it out of that. But Hoo-Hoo did, because they became truly a trade organization. Here they are being initiated into the Society for Preservation of Wooden Toilet Seats, which was a stunt to promote wooden products. World War II was difficult for the fraternal organizations. After the war, then we had the post-war boom, a lot of construction, a lot of built up demand for forest products. So the Hoo-Hoos did well there. The environmental issues made them need to adjust course once again. And they started getting involved in some environmental issues, and having the 1970s, of course, brought in a lot, the first Earth Day, Happy Earth Day yesterday. And that created some differing kinds of directions for a lot of the fraternal groups, but particularly for trade groups like this one. They didn't have women involved until I believe it was about the 1996. They finally decided it was okay to have women. They could play on the basketball team, but they couldn't be a member until then. So here's their headquarters, where they were founded in Gordon, Arkansas, and they expanded internationally. They used political leadership, accepted environmental issues and women members. So they really reinvented themselves a number of times, which is what a lot of these groups have had to do. Whoops, I think I missed a, yeah, here we go. I've skipped right on through there. So here's what scholars are seeing. They're seeing great decline over the years in fraternal groups. Some of them think perhaps it has to do with increasing lack of civic engagement in our society. Here's some numbers for the Masons, the JCs, and the Shriners, just three of the major groups in this country, with their numbers coming down. Whose numbers are not what they used to be either. So to kind of pull things together, certainly it seems that these groups are continue to have an important role in culture and society. They have evolved, and some of them have actually done a metamorphosis from what they were originally. But they still contribute to how individuals define themselves and how we work together in groups. I think also there's some discussion and some research going on around the idea that social media is contributing to decreased civic engagement because people are not getting together in person in the way that they once were. And I think there's a lot more research that could be done on this topic, but it is an interesting part of our history and part of our culture. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and come back to the group.